Alex was driving through the streets at 100 miles per hour. He overtook one car, then another, then yet another. Some of the other drivers on the road were scared, while some were confused by what was going on. Most of them pointed at his taillights and cursed at him. He didn't care about his life. Alex ignored the red light at an intersection, and a man riding an electric bike had to swerve to avoid him. The man was sent sprawling, and by the time he got up, Alex was already some distance away. They arrived at the general hospital within 20 minutes. "How many red lights did you run?" the car owner asked, his expression pained. "I'm going to lose my license." During the mad dash to the hospital, the car owner's heart had been in his mouth, and he had regretted letting Alex drive his car. No amount of money was worth risking death. Alex didn't care about the car owner. He got out of the car and opened the back door to help Debbie out. "Don't worry, nothing will happen to you," Alex assured the man. He had been driving the man's car, so Alex wouldn't let him get into any trouble. With that, he helped Debbie into the hospital. When they arrived at the ICU, Sam was waiting outside the ward. "Mr. Ambrose, Miss Stonehill, you made it," Sam said. "What's going on?" Alex asked with a frown. Debbie had let go of him and dashed to the door of the ICU, worriedly looking in through the window. A few doctors in white coats surrounded Carla, who was lying in bed. From time to time, they checked the numbers on the machines, while a few nurses helped to make Carla comfortable. The CEO of the general hospital walked over, and when he saw Debbie looking in, he called out, "Close the blinds." Sam had arranged for Carla to be seen immediately, and he had called in the most capable doctor to treat her. "The patient is this girl's mother," Sam said, frowning. Seeing Sam's expression, the CEO grew nervous. Sam thought highly of this girl. "I'm sorry," he hurriedly apologized to Debbie. "I didn't mean to offend you." Debbie barely heard a single word of what he was saying. The only thing she cared about was her mother. Alex still didn't know what was wrong with Carla. He walked up beside Debbie and put an arm around her shoulders as she looked into the ward. She didn't say a word, but he could feel her body trembling. More than an hour later, the doctors finished their treatment and walked out of the ICU. "Doctor, how is my mother?" Debbie asked anxiously, stepping in front of Dr. Henderson. The doctor glanced at Sam, who nodded. Only after getting Sam's agreement did the doctor begin to tell Debbie about Carla's illness. "Your mother's condition is very complicated," Dr. Henderson said. "We've managed to stabilize her for now, but we'll need to consult with some of our colleagues." Debbie was stunned. Her legs became weak, and she would have fallen to the ground if Alex hadn't been holding her up. "Don't be afraid," Alex comforted her. "The doctor said that your mom is stable. Trust me, she'll be fine." "I want to see her," Debbie said. She didn't want to listen anymore. She didn't feel at all reassured and just wanted to rush into the ICU. "Miss, please calm down," the doctor said, holding out a hand to stop her. "Your mother is very weak right now. She needs rest. Besides, she's not conscious at the moment, so even if you go in, she can't speak to you." "Listen to the doctor," Alex advised, frowning. "If you go in, it might make your mom's condition worse." Seeing Debbie like this, his heart ached. "The nurse is taking good care of her. Don't worry, your mom will be fine." His gentle persuasion worked, and Debbie stopped insisting on seeing Carla, but she refused to move away from the window. He looked at Sam and said, "Find all the best doctors in New York. If they can't help Debbie's mom, their careers are over." "I'll do it now," Sam said in fear, never having seen Alex in such a mood before. He left to make the arrangements. The CEO and the doctor were both shocked. This guy, who looked like an ordinary student, had shouted at Sam Woodsworth. And even more shocking was the fact that Sam obeyed him. Debbie stood by the window and watched quietly for over 3 hours. Sam told them that there was a doctor at another nearby hospital who was rushing over right now, and the hospital doctors were urgently discussing Carla's condition. You should rest, Alex said, leading Debbie to a chair in the corridor. They sat down and Debbie leaned forward with her elbows on her knees, resting her forehead in her hands. It'll be fine, believe me, Alex reassured her as he patted her back, but he was starting to feel as uncertain as she did. What's going on? Someone yelled from inside the room. A moment later, a nurse rushed out. Debbie jumped in fright. She ran to the door of the ICU and looked inside. The nurse seemed flustered and unsure of what to do, and Carla was already awake. Mom! Debbie was extremely anxious. She pushed at the door, wanting to rush in. The nurse hurried over and opened the door. Debbie was about to run in, but the nurse stopped her. Miss, please calm down. Only doctors can come in here, the nurse said anxiously. You have to stay out there. There's nothing you can do to help. Right now, your mother's condition is very serious. We've already sent for a doctor, so please be patient. Debbie, calm down, Alex said, holding her back. You won't be able to do anything in there. We just have to wait for the doctor. Let me go. I want to see my mother, Debbie said, trying her best to get away from him. She was completely out of control with worry. The same doctors from before ran over. Alex dragged the struggling Debbie away from the door to allow them entry. I'm worried too, he told her, but there's nothing we can do to help. I've already asked Sam to call all the best doctors in the city. Believe me, your mom will be fine. Although Debbie wanted to rush in to see her mother, she knew Alex was right, and she stopped fighting him. However, 10 minutes later, a flustered young doctor ran out and approached Sam. Trembling with fear, he said, Mr. Woodsworth, the patient, her condition is deteriorating and there's not much we can do. Dr. Henderson said it's possible that, well, she may not make it. What? Sam asked. He glanced at Alex, who froze in shock, his eyes wide. Standing beside him, Debbie became even more agitated. If anything happens to Mrs. Stonehill, then your career is over, Sam shouted at the doctor. But Dr. Henderson said that the patient is already critical, the doctor whispered fearfully. Alex noticed the doctor's tone and realized what was happening. He stopped restraining Debbie and rushed to the door of the ICU with her. What are you doing? You can't go in there, the young doctor objected. Sam slapped his face. Open the door for Mr. Ambrose. Yes, of course, the doctor said, hurrying to open the door. Alex, Debbie, and Sam all walked into the ICU. Debbie stood beside the bed, holding back tears as she looked at her mother. Carla's face was pale and haggard. She wore an oxygen mask and had several tubes sticking out of her body. Doctors were gathered around the bed. Debbie was stunned. She couldn't get in the way of her mother's treatment, but her heart felt as if it were breaking. How is Mrs. Stonehill? Sam asked Dr. Henderson. Seeing Sam's serious expression, the group of doctors grew nervous. We had stabilized the patient's condition earlier, but now there's been a sudden change, Dr. Henderson reported. Her heart and lungs are failing, and her liver, spleen, and kidneys are struggling too. There are also problems with her large intestine and respiratory tract. He had been surprised when he had seen Carla's condition. He had never witnessed anything like this before. Just tell me if you can cure her. Sam lost his patience. Dr. Henderson's heart sank. The other doctors didn't even dare to breathe loudly. I'm afraid, no, I can't, Dr. Henderson admitted. If you can't cure her, then what's the point of you being here? Sam reprimanded him angrily. His words scared Dr. Henderson so much that he staggered back. The rest of the doctors and nurses also inched further away. Mr. Woodsworth, forgive me, but the patient's condition is very unusual, Dr. Henderson explained. Within a short span of 3 to 4 hours, her condition has deteriorated to such an extent that not even the most authoritative expert in the world would be able to save her. I've never seen anything like it. He stared at Sam in trepidation, hoping Sam would understand. Carla, who was still in bed, slowly raised her hand. but she was too weak to lift it far. Debbie couldn't hold back any longer. She pushed the doctor aside and rushed to the bed. She glanced at the doctor and said, "My mom wants to take off her oxygen mask." She knew her mother well and knew what she wanted just by looking at her. Dr. Henderson gently removed Carla's oxygen mask. Carla, who looked pale and extremely weak, said softly to Sam, "Mr. Woodsworth, I don't blame the doctors for my illness. It's not their fault. But please send them out so I can have a private word with Debbie." "You can't," the doctor objected, knowing that Carla would die. Sam cast a questioning gaze at Alex. "All of you get out," Alex said, realizing that Carla could no longer be saved. They all headed toward the door. "Alex, please wait a moment," Carla said weakly. Alex stayed behind while Sam and the doctors went out and closed the door.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.